Welcome, Jim Rogers. Thanks for being with me on this show.
I am delighted to be here, Jerry.
Great. Jim, you've written a book that's due to be released this December 4th called A Bull in China, Investing Profitably in the World's Greatest Market. You've taken your money out of the dollar and put it in Chinese yuan, Japanese yen, and Swiss francs, and you've packed up your family and moved to Singapore. Why don't you explain to the folks out there what on the earth is going on and why you've taken all these steps?
Well, we moved to Asia because I have a 4-year-old daughter who speaks Chinese, and I want to make sure she continues to speak good Mandarin and good Chinese. I think that the best skill which I can give to someone born in 2003 is to be completely fluent in the Chinese language and in things Chinese. We've been thinking about this for some time. It's not something that just popped into our minds recently. We've been looking at it for 3 or 4 years. Finally, we found the right place, the right schools, and right everything else. Plus, we do want to be in Asia. Asia is the wave of the future. I think, Jerry, that moving to Asia in 2007 would be like moving to London in 1907 or to New York to London in 1807 or New York in 1907. So it's all come together, and we've moved here. When I told somebody that recently, they said, well, where are you putting your money? Into which currencies? And I was explaining that I think that the renminbi is probably one of the soundest investments one can make these days. And they said, what else? And I said the Japanese yen and the Swiss franc. Both currencies are undervalued. They've been beaten down by the carry trade. So I've been making new investments in those currencies. I'm terribly, terribly pessimistic about the U.S. dollar. It grieves me to say this since I'm an American, and we're all Americans, my daughter, my wife, everybody. But what they're doing to the U.S. dollar and in America just breaks my heart. But I can't sit around and just watch them destroy the currency. I've got to protect my family. I've got to protect my daughter, my wife.
Well, for the big part of the 20th century, the U.S. dollar was the reserve currency of the world. What do you foresee as the fate of the dollar being the reserve currency?
Well, unfortunately, I'm afraid the dollar is going to lose its status as the world's reserve currency. As recently as 1987, Jerry, the U.S. was a creditor nation. Now we're the largest debtor nation the world has ever seen. We owe the rest of the world over $13 trillion U.S. dollars, which is pretty terrifying. But what's even worse is our foreign debts are increasing at the rate of $1 trillion U.S. dollars every 15 months. Now, in Washington, you think they'd be worried about this, but they don't seem to be. It's the official policy of the Federal Reserve of the United States to debase the currency. The head of the central bank right now is on official record as saying he's going to print as much money as he has to drive down the value of the currency, and he's doing it. I mean, he cut interest rates twice here in the last few months. He's sending signals to the rest of the world. He doesn't care about the dollar. He's printing money as fast as he can. I mean, this is a terrible policy. It's never worked in the long term or the medium term with all the countries that have tried it. But this is a man who doesn't know much about the currency markets. He doesn't know much about anything, as far as I can see, except printing money. He spent his whole career studying printing money, and now we've given him the printing presses, and he's running them. So it's not good for the world, not good for America. But one has to adapt. One can't sit here and watch him destroy the currency and take my family down with it.
Well, what would be the significance of the world moving from the American dollar to another currency as its reserve currency? What is that going to do to the United States?
Well, this happened to the pound sterling 60 or 70 years, 60 to 80 years ago. The world moved away from the pound sterling to the U.S. dollar, and England was in terrible shape for many, many years. They couldn't borrow as much money as they wanted to. In fact, there came a time when no one would lend any money to the U.K. after several years, many years, I should say. So it will happen to us. One of the great advantages that the U.S. has is we can print money and borrow money in U.S. dollars, and it's been the world's reserve currency. But as that changes, we're going to find ourselves terribly restrained. Again, I'm not happy about any of this, Jerry. I wish it weren't happening, but those people in Washington don't seem to see the world the way I do.
Are you getting any pushback from basically telling the truth about what's going on in the financial world?
Well, to my astonishment, many people have written and said, my goodness, we wish somebody else would go public with what's happening, because it is a serious problem. I have gotten a couple of hate mails saying, take your money and stay out of the country. I didn't realize America was like North Korea. These people seem to think that, you can't live in America if you think things are wrong. But no, for the most part, to my amazement, everybody seems to say, yes, good Lord, they are ruining things, and I hope somebody will do something about it.
Have you been warning about this for very long?
Oh, yes. No, it's been something that's been coming for a while. I'm afraid it's crescendoing now. As Bernanke makes it clear to the rest of the world that he doesn't care about the dollar. I mean, this is something that if you paid attention, you would understand. But in the last 3 or 4 months, it's become very clear when Bernanke went and cut interest rates recently to protect his friends on Wall Street rather than to protect the dollar. It's been very, very clear to everybody, not to everybody in the world, obviously, but to many people in the world.
Well, one thing I remember is seeing you every Saturday morning on the Fox News channel on the financial shows, and your position always seemed contrarian compared to some of those, especially those youngsters that were on the show. And do you think that the things that used to stay on that show are becoming true, and that the young ones on that show are starting to learn their lessons?
Well, it's clear that the things I said on the show are coming true. It's not a question of thinking it or anything. That's not an opinion. That's happening. Are they learning? No, of course not. Most people on that show and other shows like that still don't seem to have much understanding of the big picture either, certainly of international finance or world finance. And unfortunately, many people are going to have to pay the price. I've tried to explain this to the people, but people don't seem to want to listen.
Well,
which is fine. It just gives more opportunities for those who do understand to do something about it. Now, in case I'm wrong, I'll lose a lot of money, but I don't think so far I've been right.
Well, I mean, when I watch all the financial shows now, Jim Cramer, all those, to me, it seems that they're almost deluded about what's happening to the dollar and about what the Federal Reserve should do, because they seem to be thinking that more liquidity should be pumped into the system, especially that Jim Cramer, the host of that show.
I don't watch shows like that, so I can't help you on what they think. But it is clear that more liquidity is going to drive down the value of the dollar. It is happening. The dollar's at all-time lows now. I mean, this is 2007, so that means, at least 100 years the dollar's now making new lows, which is a shame because we were the world's reserve currency. We were the richest, most powerful country in the world. And it's not going to be good. It's driving commodity prices up. It's driving up interest rates, as you know. Long-term interest rates have not come down despite all this. And what will happen is that as commodities go higher, inflation goes higher, imported goods go higher, inflation will get worse, and ultimately long-term interest rates will go higher too. We already have a very, very, very steep yield curve in America because the long-term interest rates are not paying attention to what the Federal Reserve is doing. So no, in the end, if I'm right, this is going to cause problems for all of us, worse problems for all of us.